Cool. So we're live here in the CRM MVP Dungeon, or
That's what it's called.
is that what it's called?
I heard.
Is that the official hashtag name?
That's what people call it when they come here. I don't know why.
Good. So it looks like we're going out on live on YouTube. So welcome to all those that are out there on YouTube. This is an opportunity that we had to come out and hang out with Gus Gonzalez, the famous Gus Gonzalez. And so I had the opportunity to come out here and tinker around with his setup. And so he got to let me play with all the fun toys that he has out here. And so I appreciate that, Gus. Thanks for letting me
No problem, man.
play around with this and stream.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is the first time I get to sit on the guest chair.
On the, yeah.
A little more comfortable than my chair. I
it
like
looks
this.
great, man.
I like this. I should invite more of you to come and
There you go.
host your show here at the house. This works great.
It'll be like the new CRM studio. Like everybody comes here, records. And
Should be the studio for all the up and coming MVPs and superstars to come here and
there you go.
host. This chair is way more comfortable.
Yeah,
so
man.
Thanks for that.
Yeah. So if you ever come, make sure you guys are here early so that way you guys can get the comfy chairs, as you heard on the last podcast. So.
Exactly. Steve talked about that on episode 57.
Nice.
Yeah.
So the other great thing, Gus and I had an opportunity to go to the Braves game tonight, and so thankfully they won.
That was
Close
awesome.
game, man. Holy cow, man.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it was so close.
Yeah. But they won, which is good.
Yeah, it's all about the W, right?
You don't get to go to the game every game or every day or whatever. So
Yeah.
every time I go, I can't remember the last time I went that they lost. So I'm kind of like the lucky charm.
I feel like you're a lucky charm, man.
I guess so.
Yeah, they should
Yeah.
pay you to come. I feel like
they should hire me. Yeah, they should
Yeah.
sponsor the show.
Yeah, there you go.
guess.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
first sponsor would be the Atlanta Braves.
Exactly.
That'd be
CRM
awesome.
MVP podcast sponsored by the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Well, good. So that's a blast. And then, one of the things that we wanted to do and just touch on, I wanted to get your opinion on and just hang out here sort of after hours. We'll see if anybody jumps into the live stream and the chat and stuff like that. So if you guys are here, feel free to drop a chat message down in and we'll get to it. One of the questions that was asked in the community, and I just wanted to bounce this off you because I think it's something that that we run into all the time, is either partners or internal system administrators, is what does who owns the system? Like a business application system, who owns that? Like where does that, like, so when the buck stops, where does it stop? And like, where does that for you when you're talking with clients and prospects?
Yeah. I mean, that's a really good question. I think that when there was an episode of the CRM MVP podcast that I talked about this. I talked about, I think it was like the top 5 red flags to know that your project is not going to end well.
Yeah.
And one of them was when your project is owned by IT, right?
Interesting,
And again,
yeah.
the project, we're talking about the business application, which is Dynamics 365.
Yeah.
If it's owned by IT, doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to fail,
Right.
but it's definitely a red flag. IT shouldn't own the project. Now, you do need IT to be involved.
Right.
You do need to reach out to those data sources. You do need to configure the workstations and the integration with Exchange. Like, IT needs to be involved for sure,
Yeah.
but not own the solution. And what I mean by that is the technology is not the solution. Like, even if IT owns the servers, and let's say if you're on premise, or even if you're online, if they own the membership to Microsoft and licensing and all that stuff, even if IT owns all of that,
Yeah.
the solution itself, which is what Dynamics is there to solve, the business outcomes that you expect out of Dynamics, need to come from business. So because of that,
Okay.
in my opinion, if you had to pick the owner of the business application, in my opinion, if I use the word owner the way Dynamics 365 uses owner, which is responsible for,
Okay.
I think that the business, sales, customer service, depending on how you're using that solution, because in some cases the solution is used for something completely different than sales and customer service,
Yeah.
which we call XRM solution or model-driven applications, whatever organization within the company that owns that solution that was implemented ultimately is responsible for what the solution does.
Yeah. So is that different? So is there a difference between a product that ultimately gets owned by the business and a project? So like the actual implementation or the actual going through the motions of configuring the system or setting up requirements and stuff like that? Is there a difference between who owns that and who drives that?
I think so. I mean, I think the project is the vehicle that we use to implement the actual solution.
Yeah.
It's the best way we can come up with to implement and solve the problems that a particular division is trying to solve, or a particular department or whatever wing of the company, depending on the way you're implementing Dynamics.
Yeah.
I still think that that division is responsible for the solution, even if IT and the partner and project managers and everyone else is actually running the project to implement the solution. If the solution doesn't include what the division that is going to be using it was intended to have, I think that division should be ultimately wholly responsible for it. They need to be the ones that take ownership of that and be involved, like designate sponsors, designate, stakeholders, champions, power users, whatever you call it, people that are going to be responsible for making sure that the solution does what the division expects from it, that you get the outcomes that you expect from it. So even if they're not the ones actually doing the configuration and customization of the system, I think they're ultimately responsible. So ownership of the project goes to, in my opinion, the solution architect is the one that owns the entire project. From the perspective of the partner side, even if the customer is heavily involved, like it happens a lot in my projects, I'm still responsible for the actual project. But the solution itself, at the end of the day, I believe the business is responsible for what the solution does.
Yeah, because the business is the one, and again, Diane Taylor in Canada, part of the community and stuff like that, asked this question. And so my response to her was management owns the product, right? So management is the one that says that business applications are beneficial to our business, and we're going to spend money on having this. And so management is the one that's giving authorization to have it in the system, in the environments. It's then the business is taking the strategy that the management is giving, right? So management is saying, okay, we need to go accomplish X, right? And so it's this 5-year goal that we need to accomplish. And so the sales department, the customer service department, all these different departments then internalize that and say, okay, how are we going to do this tactically, right? So how are we going to make sure that we can answer the question when management comes down and says, have we accomplished this? Or what is that KPI, right? And so they are the ones that are interpreting the strategy, turning it into a tactical thing. And then we have that project that wraps around that is able to then bring in the other teams. And again, whether it's IT or a partner or whatever that is, the people that are actually hands on the keyboards, building the system out and the solution. And that is where you talk about the solution architect, where it's that person that understands from management's perspective, what are we trying to accomplish here from a strategic perspective? You want to do this tactically. That may not be the best way to do it tactically if you're trying to meet this this management goal kind of thing. So.
Yeah, but like the way I think about it is if we extrapolate this to something else. So let's just stop talking about Dynamics for a second. Let's just talk about, we want to build a pool in our house. Okay? So the way I think about it is...
house if you have a pool inside the house, by the way. Just saying. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
Regardless of how you build it. I'm just saying that the objectives of what you're trying to do with your pool is decided by the homeowners. The homeowners are the ones that come and say, look, we have 5 kids and we want a pool that is, that our kids can use, or whatever. We want to swim laps. Like, there's different objectives. We want a pool that is full of entertainment for our kids and splashing areas, whatever. You get to decide what goes to it. Now, once you decide kind of the outcomes you expect from this pool, then the solution architect, which is the builder, the pool builder, whoever you hire to do it, they're ultimately responsible for delivering that vision, that solution that is going to solve your requirements. That's the way.
So is that like a general contractor or is that the designer that's like the architect?
Regardless of who you use. I mean, in the case of a pool, I would say you're going to hire a company that builds pools to do it, right? But this can be extrapolated to anything. The point is, if the project goes wrong, meaning that you hit a water main, if there's something that goes bad, the builder is responsible for it, which in my case is the solution architect. I think the solution architect is responsible for that. If you start building something and you realize that, I needed direct access to SQL, but I said we should go online or something like that, then that's your job. To figure that out before you get started. That's what you get paid for, right?
Yeah, and so if you're thinking about like a backyard, right? And so we got, if you're the one that's architecting the pool, and we have a shallow end and deep end, right? And so which side does the shallow end go on? Which one does the deep end go on, right? And so if you know where that water main's coming out, it comes out on this side. Well, we need to put the shallow end on that side.
As the
kind of
architect,
thing.
you should be able to make those decisions. And
be aware of that. And
I do the same when it comes to dynamics. I'm the one making the decisions of what's the best way to accomplish the outcomes that the company expects, that the division expects. So when it comes to the pool, me as a designer, I said, okay, they want to swim laps. Here's the backyard. Let me design this thing in a way that allows them to swim laps.
Right.
Now, if after I deliver the pool, okay, and I do it to specifications based on the outcomes they expected, they then, once they have the pool, they realize that this was a stupid idea. Like, we shouldn't be swimming laps. We're too old, or our kids are too, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, now if you decide that your outcome or the goals that you had are not right to begin with, that's your fault. That's you. You need to own those goals.
Who?
The homeowners. The company
homeowners,
the company paying for the pool, which in this case will be the business division.
Yeah.
So if you come in and you set up some goals and you say, look, we believe that we need a solution that helps us create clarity because we don't know what the hell is going on. We don't know what division is working on what. We have no idea. Number two, we need to cross-sell because we have a bunch of products and we never know what division is working with the company and we miss out in opportunities. We deliver a project that we could definitely cross-sell with another division and we don't do it because we don't know what anybody's doing. Those are our two main objectives. Maybe we need some help qualifying leads, getting better at qualifying leads. We go to events and conferences. We bring this humongous list of, stack of business cards. We don't call them. We don't follow up. We need some help with that. Yeah. Those are our main priorities, right? If I then design a solution that helps you do those things, and after it's done, you decide that actually those are not super important, then that's on you, I think.
So
then my job is obviously to help make sure and prioritize, make sure that those are the goals that you have. So it's a little bit more complicated. And I think if you were building a pool, the builder will help you and say, well, do you really want to swim laps here? Like they'll help you make that decision. But once those decisions are made, I think that as the business division, you're responsible for making sure that those are accomplished. And that if they change or something like that, then that's on you.
Yeah, and again, I think that's where management is telling somebody the direction that they're supposed to. We're trying to go this direction. We're trying to have retention because we see that as an issue. That we want to do retentions or we want to get people in the door, right? So those are similar but different, right? So one is getting people in the door, one's keeping people working with you. And so both are good things, both are needful things. And so making sure that you're able to do both. But if you say, hey, we're going to implement dynamics to focus on lead generation, and that's where we're going to start. And then all of a sudden we change gears. Yeah. You're changing goals and priorities and stuff like that. And so where does that, I mean, heck, I don't, my wife struggles to understand me half the time, right? And so how do I make sure that as a business and I'm working with whether I'm working with a partner or I am the partner, where does that fall in kind of like things are going to change, people are going to try to articulate the best they can, but how do we make sure that we're going the right direction, that we can raise that flag and say, hey, you realize that this is different. You're now talking about retention, which is good and needful, but like we were really focusing on this sort of this first lead generation portion of it. I mean, like how does that, where do you see that in a project, or where's that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's complicated, and to quote, Gustav Westerlund, another CRM MVP, it depends on where you are, right? That's
Classic
like
consulting, yeah.
It really depends on what you're trying to do. I mean, for me, when it comes to ownership, I think that you ultimately, like I said, I think the solution, the ownership of that, the responsibility for that is the business. Yeah. And ultimately the responsibility for the project is on the solution architect. But when you break it down even further, the way I see ownership is based on influence. So for example, if I'm working with a customer and they say our users are never going to use that, or our users are never going to go for that, because let's say one of the priorities of the company is to get better analytics, better business intelligence. We have no idea where we're losing business. We have no idea where we're, how we're losing business, who's beating us.
Where they're going out the door,
Yeah, we need some more intel. And I say, well, in order for us to have better intel, you guys need to enter more data because we don't have enough data, or people are not entering data. If you're not capturing deals that you're losing, how are we going to know why we're losing them? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. So sometimes you do work on projects that you get the flat out, like, I know that our goals are to improve intelligence, but our users are not going to enter more data. well, then I guess you're not going to improve intelligence, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's why the
Or how
messaging
can
at
we
that
get-
point, the ownership of that issue, of that situation, roadblock, comes from whoever manages those users. And that's why I'm so adamant about doing a sponsorship mapping exercise on every implementation, because typically what you get is, well, the sponsor on this project is the CIO. Cool. CIO has the chief on the title.
Yeah.
But when it boils down to the users in the project who is using the actual solution, it's a bunch of salespeople who report to sales managers, who reports to the VP of sales, who reports to the CEO.
Yeah.
They, in the line of command, the CIO is not even involved. So how do they have any influence on what the users do or see or have to do or incorporate in their workflow?
Yeah.
You can't do that. You have to involve people
Right.
that have influence on the users.
Because that makes it tough for the CIO if he's the one that responds. The CEO is coming to him and saying, "Hey, why do we only have 50% adoption?" And the CIO is like, "Well, I can't really influence them. I have a system
I
that
keep sending
works."
emails telling them you have to use this thing. It's like,
yeah,
what's this guy from IT sending me
Yeah.
emails me for? I mean,
and
if
so
I'm
you're
in
setting them up
sales,
for hard. Yeah,
if
that's
I'm in
tough.
sales and I see an email from the IT director like, "Hey, you have better get on it." It's like, what the hell? I'm too busy selling. I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah.
But if I see that from my sales manager,
Yeah,
I'm gonna pay more attention.
and he's looking.
And I think again, a lot of people take it for granted on, well, let's just put somebody with, the higher we can go, the better.
Right.
That's not what it is. Sometimes a sales manager has more pull on an implementation that the chief information officer or the CFO of the company. Yeah, just because you're the CFO of the company doesn't mean you have influence on the salespeople or the tech support people. If you're talking about customer service, you have to get someone in there to take ownership that has influence on the users.
Yeah, and we've talked a little bit about ownership, and there's kind of two things I want to get back to. One is, where is the solution architect, internal or external? And if it's external, so that's kind of one. And then two is when it comes to a partner's role in all of this, because again, the business is the one that's owning it. And so how do you've done sessions at user group, how do you choose the right partner and make sure there's a good fit, whether it's priorities or the pace at which you go about doing things or setting expectations. But where does that solution architect, going a little bit back towards that, is that an internal person that's helping design this? Is it somebody that you're bringing in external? That it's a guy that designs pools. Like we keep talking about pools. It was hot today. That's why I think we keep talking about pools.
I think so. I wish I had a pool.
Yeah, there you go.
In my backyard. No, I mean, I think it all depends on the organization. Obviously, most organizations don't have someone with enough knowledge and experience about the capabilities of the platform in order to be effective at being a solution architect.
Okay.
I'm working with customers right now who have been the owners of Dynamics since 2011, for example, which was 8 years ago. And they are super knowledgeable about what they have. So CRM 2011, 2013, 2015, whatever they have, they know everything about it.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the platform, Power Apps, what's coming, when it comes to ISV solutions they're not currently using, if you're not using it, if you don't even know they exist, how can you incorporate them into a solution? And I think that's when partners can bring a lot of value.
Right.
Because as partners, especially if you are active on the community, like an MVP or someone who's active on the community like yourself, I think that we have just more tools, more visibility.
Yeah.
I have access to knowledge that you don't even know it exists. Doesn't mean that I'm smarter. It just means that I've made my life's mission to learn as much as possible so I can be a better solution architect. That's why I take courses like on sales. I'll attend a 3-day how to sell stuff course. Like, it has nothing to do with Dynamics.
Yeah.
But that's because I think that knowledge, like change management, for example, is good knowledge to have, makes you a better solution architect. You understand that there's a lot more out there that I can incorporate on the solution.
I feel like there's so much on the solution architect, and I think we've talked about it a little bit. I think you're going to go into that more in depth in another thing, so I don't want to steal too much thunder there. But I think that's an interesting topic because there's a lot there, and you just piled on like 7 extra things besides just designing a system.
Right.
And so I think they'd be interested to
so the
to
way
go
I
into
partner
that kind
up
of
with
stuff like
customers,
that,
the way I partner up with customers is I say, look, I am the expert in Dynamics and the platform. You're the expert on the business, on your business. So I think that if you bring your skills and knowledge from the business and we marry that with my skills and knowledge in Dynamics, we'll come up with the best solution. So that's typically the way it works best for me.
Okay.
But the customer is always heavily involved. I just kind of
have to be,
become their Dynamics expert, right? So my job is to learn their processes, which they know very well, and come up with a solution that maps to that process. Obviously, heavily obsessed with no code, simplicity, and stuff, which is kind of like
it's your mantra.
My trademark, architecting solutions.
I think there's a hashtag you got running around out there for, for
exactly.
No code.
So that's kind of like the approach that I take. I think that partners are highly valuable just because they're exposed to a lot more solutions and tools that an internal solution architect. But if you have an internal solution architect, like I know there's MVPs that are not partners, like they work for customers, and so they're exposed to all of that stuff. And if you have someone internally who is at that level, then more power to you. That's awesome.
Yeah. And just real quick, are all MVPs solution architects?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Just want to.
No, I think
it's not a 1-to-1 there.
No.
But they definitely have a deep knowledge.
When you look at the Dynamics 365 MVPs or customer engagement MVPs in particular, I think that a vast minority of MVPs are solution architects.
Interesting, yeah. So you don't have to be a solution architect, I guess, is a good thing. Yeah. If you want to be an MVP, if that's the route you're
I
going.
mean, there's and we've talked about this in other episodes of the podcast and stuff. We have MVPs that are customers. They just use Dynamics as a customer. They are not solution architects or developers or trainers. Or
is it Clarissa?
Clarissa Simpson is an example.
Yeah. With Ford,
until recently, Dave Berry works for an ISV. You know? He's not a solution architect. He's a developer, a technical person. We've had MVPs or former MVPs that work for banks who work for other institutions, and you don't have to be a solution architect to be an MVP, of course.
Okay, good. Yeah, that's encouraging.
But there's always
some that aren't.
There's always next levels, right? And we were talking about this earlier today, which is, who do you like when we have questions? And you mentioned this, when we have questions, we go to MVPs for answers, right? And all the people in the community for answers, like how will you do this, and run things by them and see, I'm struggling with this. Can you help me out? Yeah. So who do you go to for help, right?
Yeah. Who do you go to?
If I need help.
Yeah. I go to you and I need help.
Right. People come to me, like, who do I go to?
Yeah.
There's always people above me, let's say, that I deeply respect and that I go and ask for second opinions. Yeah. And, just off the top of my head, if I ever wanted to run something, there's solution architects that I deeply respect on the MVP community. Gustav Westerland, I mentioned him earlier. I deeply respect. He has a ton of experience and I trust him 100%. If I run something by him and he disagrees, I'm probably going to pick his position. I think that he has a huge amount of experience. If I could pick just one person to run everything by, I think Sarah Jelinek will be the person that I consider to be, like if I need to make sure I make the right decision, let me reach out to Sarah. I think she's amazing.
There you go, a little shout out there.
She has a ton of knowledge and experience that I deeply respect. So not every MVP.
That's
like
cool.
I wouldn't ask, and not to put anyone down, but I wouldn't ask George Dubinsky a question about how to solve a business problem, because George is an amazing developer. If I had to do something technically, I'll ask George, and I do all the time. Like I'm like, hey George, I'm thinking about the best way to do this design frame. What do you think? And then he'll come and be like, no, that's stupid.
And I think that goes
in a regular George fashion, shut down my idea.
Yeah, that goes back to the whole thing. Is everybody doesn't have to know everything, and I think there's a misconception out there that everybody's talking about.
I think it's impossible to know everything with Dynamics,
and you shouldn't. Like, there's no way you can.
Yeah, no, like back in the day, right, when Dynamics was like sales and customer service,
you got two options.
You were able to know everything.
Yeah, I remember those days. It was kind of fun.
But now that especially if you're bringing in the Power Platform with Power Apps and Power BI and Flow, like
now you're doing experience and user experience and all that kind of other stuff around that.
Is there anyone out there that knows everything Flow can do?
I don't know. Yeah, if you do, send it over in the chat. Hit us up.
That would be amazing. Just that one thing, and there's still Canvas apps, model-driven apps, Power BI. It's unbelievable. It's so much stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. It's fun. It's exciting. but there's so much out there, and it's been a blast to look at it and to watch it and just to see it just take off. And I think that was another thing that you and I touched on, is there's is I don't know, it's a question that I kind of ponder and stuff like that. How quickly Microsoft is releasing every 6 months,
Right.
and so now it's no longer just sort of like every couple of years, and then they went to every year, and now it's 400 pages of stuff every 6 months. And so I know customers, and so one of the things that I often hear from system administrators, you talk about these people that are internal that are helping build out their product, is how do I keep up with this, and how do I know what to listen to? And I think that's where the Bacon Bites come in. I'm just gonna shameless plug. If you watched 25 minutes into this, hopefully it's okay. So
Definitely.
But I think that's where we help try to internalize it and say, hey, these are all the different things that are coming out, and let's help try to make this succinct, and let's try to help understand, like, this is good and this is maybe where it plays, but it's not something that just because Microsoft released it, you have to implement it immediately. And I think there's
Absolutely
misconceptions around that, because it used to be that way. I mean, you'd upgrade every year, and hey, I can plan for that, so I know it's going to come. It's going to be 6 months out. We're going to upgrade.
Right, and I wish I remember which number tip this was, but I remember talking about this in one of those 2-Minute Tuesdays, which is, don't be so quick to jump in a functionality just because Microsoft released it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been a lot of things in the past that Microsoft released and then pull back because it caused problems or whatever. And it's been both ways. It's been new functionality that then doesn't work the way it was supposed to work or whatever, and they pull it back. And it's been functionality they try to remove, and then they don't remove it.
Yeah.
Right? They've done it both ways. So I'm a big proponent of like the wait for one, version of it until you implement it. And unfortunately, there's been situations that we're kind of forced into it, right? There are some of these solutions that Microsoft just pushes into your dynamics, and there's nothing you can like.
Yeah.
Oh, now I guess I now have LinkedIn. Like it's, so they push some of this stuff. Yeah. And it is hard to stay away. But to go back to your original question, which was, how do you stay on top of all this stuff?
Yeah.
I think that in order to be successful as a solution architect or as a pro in this industry, and there's many other industries like this, but specifically Dynamics going through so many changes, it's a full-time thing. You can't just learn something and just do that for life and not learn something new. You have to stay on top of it. So for me, when people like they see me answering tweets and stuff like that at 12, like I don't have some kind of robot out there putting tweets. Like I don't even know how to use it. Like I know people use like Hootsuite or something.
I'll show you.
No, I don't need it. I want to be engaged because it's the only way I can stay on top of it.
Yeah.
And I know there's MVPs out there. Like Mark Smith has a policy, for example, that he wants to study. I think it's something like 20 minutes or an hour or something like that every day.
Yeah. Just little workouts. Yeah.
Yeah. And he does that for new stuff. Sometimes I don't say I do that every day, but I do spend hours some days. Like after I'm done with work, I'll stay up till 10 or whatever it is, which is fine because my wife likes all these shows about like house hunters and stuff. I don't know if your wife watches that.
She would, yeah.
It's annoying and it's so fake. So it's like, oh, like I'm a underwater basket weaver and I sell yo-yos and I have a budget of $2 million. Like what?
Yeah.
So
looking in the Seattle area, we do not have that in Seattle. We got a lot of basket weavers, but
so anyway, so she can watch all those shows, and then I just stay down and learn this stuff. I mean, I just love learning and I love teaching too, and so it's kind of like a lifestyle for me. So that is the only way you can stay on top of it. If your question is how can you stay on top of it if you don't want to study every day or if you don't want to spend extra hours above your full-time job, then the answer is impossible.
It's tough.
You can't do it. It's not going to work.
Yeah, and I think
you have to spend the time.
It's been interesting watching partners, and it's been mentioned hundreds of times by now, but how slowly some have reacted and how quickly some have. And so there's definitely been this dichotomy between ones that just jumped in with both feet and said, hey, this is where it's going. We need our people to learn this. And so they make sure that they get in there. And then the other half is the people that say, I've been implementing for the last 5 years. It hasn't really changed on the back end. Nothing's really changed. And so it's been interesting watching those two sort of competing. And I think, I mean, I'll just repeat what everybody else has said, but there's going to be a breaking away, and like an obvious one. And no longer is it, because we've only been, what, a year now, a Power Platform-ish, year and a half, 2 years kind of thing. And so
at least seriously.
At least seriously. And I think there's going to be a greater separation, and it's going to be more obvious as things go on. Not to say that there's not places for the people that have done it in the past and they're going to continue. I mean, I'm sure you would say, yep, go work on premise, go enjoy that.
Well, but I do think that there's a lot of this stuff that you're kind of forced to learn eventually.
Yeah, some of it.
So for example, right now, nobody's forced to learn flow. You don't have to learn flow. You can use workflows still.
Yeah, true.
But will it come a time where workflows are shut down forever and now you do everything in flow?
If you're
they
online.
Can do it now because there are things that workflows can do that you can't do with flow.
Yeah, there's not parity, yeah.
You can run full time, right? You can't run in real time flows. Right. You can't like wait forever, right? There are things that we can do with workflows that you can do with flow. But once those things are possible,
yeah, why not?
What are you going to do? And you can see it now if you try to build a workflow now. Like, I don't know how many people watching this we have, but if you're watching this and you haven't built a workflow in a while, go and try to start one. So you can see a message at the top that says, you should use flow. Have
Consider
you seen
this.
that one?
I haven't seen it, no.
Yeah, so if you go to create a workflow now,
yeah,
there's a banner at the top that says, consider using flow. Like, you should probably use flow.
Yeah.
Like, almost at a wink emoji, like you should probably use flow.
Yeah,
you know. So it's like it's on their NDA. We can't tell, but you should probably use flow for this one, right?
Yeah, I'm not under NDA, so everything I know is
how much longer are we going to have those winks versus before it becomes it's over. Workflows are no longer like right now. You can use Skype for Business, right? Skype for like little by little Teams.
Yeah,
it's sort of like you can use both at the same time, and then you got like a message saying it's like you should probably use Teams. Like you should consider using Teams.
Yeah.
And now you go to Skype for Business. It's like go to Teams.
Yeah, this is not a thing.
That's it. You can't use this. You just go to Teams. Uninstall me. Like it's it's true. So I think that a lot of things in Dynamics are gonna be like that, where you're gonna be pushed to learn.
Yeah.
Like right now, we have the ability to customize views in the Power Platform with the View Customizer, which is cool. Drag and drop is really simple. And then you have the ability to do it on the old school View Customizer, right? You can do. There's a form editor in the Power Platform. There's the old school form editor, and a lot of us, including myself, are still on the classic mode because we've done thousands of field customizations and things like that.
Yeah.
And it's hard to just switch to a tool that doesn't really give you anything new unless, unless something new comes up, an advantage comes out. I don't really see the point of it until they shut it down. And then that's the only tool that we have. And we're going to have to do it.
Yeah. What was it? The voice of the customer? It was something like that recently?
Yeah. Voice of the customer. They just told everybody, hey, by the way, July 1st, 2020, it's going to be off.
And then,
now what?
Yeah, and then the user interface was the other change that came, right? And so they're like, so a year from now or something
we're deprecating it in October.
Yeah.
You're probably going to have a year after that to use it, and then we're going to turn it off.
Yeah.
So a lot of those features, we're going to have to learn it, or you're going to have to start working with, Sugar CRM or whatever. Like switch to a different product. Because the product is going to change in a way that you're going to be forced to do it.
Yeah.
Now, the idea is you're not at a position where you're forced to do it. The idea is that you are at a place where you can actually learn it at your own pace, where you can try to break it and learn from it.
Right.
Rather than learning on the fly because, I'm starting a project. And what? The form editor is no longer there?
Everything. Yeah.
What? I can create workflows?
Yeah.
Now I have to learn on the fly.
Yeah.
It is.
It's been interesting because they have released a lot of new things, but you're right. They haven't. If you still, so we're on a project and the customer because they're in the government cloud is back a few versions because they don't get things as quickly. And so it's been
Right.
interesting because some of the things that have been released, it's a slow trickle from this commercial stuff. And so so some of the UI stuff hasn't come yet. And so when it comes to forms and stuff like that, you can't edit forms in the maker experience and stuff like that, at least not in this environment. And there's a whole another discussion around that, why you can't do it, and licenses and stuff. But anyways, it's been interesting sort of watching even the commercial side where it's like, hey, this is new, you should try this out, you should try it out, like kind of like you said with the flow things, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, everything's there, we are now going to shut this off and it's end of life. And so it's been you see it coming. I mean, there's no reason not to see it coming.
That's why I always tell people, like, you need to get involved on the preview programs, like get involved and test this stuff.
But that's
funny,
early,
like,
man. That's tough. Because you're talking about now the after hour stuff. You're talking about like the 20 minutes
and don't learn. And
well, you can learn, but you don't have. You're like, don't jump into the first thing, but also be on the preview program where you see the stuff first.
Right.
And so it's that balance.
But that's the thing, is that you can't have them both, right? Yeah. You can't just say, oh, I want to somehow Matrix style, Neo style, just inject this stuff in my brain.
Learn the helicopter
in 5 minutes. Like I know Kung Fu or whatever, or karate, whatever he said, Jiu-Jitsu, I don't remember the movie. But it doesn't work like that. You have to put in the time and do it.
Yeah.
There's no shortcut. There's no tricks. Like, we don't just show up at Microsoft and get, Matrix style injected in our brains. We're putting in the work.
Yeah.
And you don't see it. And that's why in one of the episodes about the mistakes aspiring MVPs make is comparing yourself with other MVPs, because a lot of the time that we spend is spent learning all this stuff. So then we can go to conferences and talk about it.
Yeah, and be ready for that when it comes out.
How do you think this works? Like, the MVPs are out there putting in the work. And like I was telling you earlier today, when we were talking about the difference between someone who's trying to become an MVP and a current MVP and how does that work? And I mentioned, like, well, current MVPs and aspiring MVPs are all in the same boat, which is we're trying to get the MVP next year.
Right.
Every year the award is given. It's earned. Like, you have to earn it. It's not for free.
Yeah.
And we just lost like 25% of the MVPs on July 1st because they didn't do enough or didn't deserve the award, however they put it. So every year, it doesn't get easier for current MVPs. You still have to put the work in, just like anyone else who's not an MVP that wants to get the award has to put the work in.
Yeah.
The same thing happens to this stuff. How can you stay on top of stuff? I put the work in. I learn it.
Yeah.
Luckily enough, I love it. I'm lucky. I'm lucky I happen to be on a profession where I find a new feature or whatever. It's like, oh, now you can create your own cards for relationship insights, and they can include it. Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, I want to jump in. Like, I can't sleep. I want to get in there and use this stuff. I want to learn it. Because the next project, I want to have this weapon in my my case that I can use for a solution. So, I just love it.
How many people have come up to you? Because my wife looks at me funny. She's like, babe, you're staying up late again for another 3 hours to look at this stuff and to record or to play around and tweet out something you just learned. Like, babe, you're weird. Like,
I think
do you have people like that?
My wife got over that.
She did?
A long time ago. Yeah, it's just weird. It's frustrating. Like, yesterday.
Nothing wrong with that. Like, it's just like people don't understand the passion that you have, I guess is where I'm going with that.
But even I don't understand it myself. Like I do stuff like this morning I needed to wake up at 6. Like, I set my alarm at 6. So I'm like, okay, I want to go to sleep early. And I was tired anyway because the day before I woke up early too.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I think I can go to sleep at like 10 or like 9:30 even.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna collapse early.
Yeah.
Which is great because I need to wake up at 6. So that way I can get like 8 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
Or if I wake up on my own at 5, I only got 7.
Fine,
whatever, right? I got a full night of sleep. So I think I came down into the office or the dungeon, however we call it.
Yeah, you see,
Yeah, I came down into the office, and I think it was like, I don't know, like 8 or 8:30 maybe, something like. It was right after dinner, and I told my wife, and it's like, I'll be in bed in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
No, I told her 30 minutes. I'm like, 30 minutes, I'll be in bed. I remember so I got down here. It was 8:37. I remember now. And I started like doing some stuff. I think I'm trying to remember what it was that I was messing with. It was something.
Yeah, you're messing with something.
It was something from the April release. I think the second wave was released now, so I was messing with some of the new stuff. And like, honestly, I think like 15 minutes later, I look at the clock that I have here on the back wall that they can't see, but it's back there. It was 1:07.
I've done that before
It's
because
like,
you sit
oh,
down.
I gotta wake up in like 4.5 hours.
Yeah. So I have done that, and that was again earlier this week. Somebody
That
was
never happens with other stuff.
No.
Like I'm never at the gym. Like on a, I'm never like, you know what I'm saying? I'm never at the gym being like, oh wait, I've been walking
One
for
more?
an hour. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't. I wish, but that's not how it works. I'm like, all right, I must be getting close. Oh, what? 30 seconds later?
Yeah.
Like, but that with
treadmill's-
dynamics, for me at
definitely
least,
in a mile.
when I'm learning all this stuff, it's just like time flies.
Yeah.
Like it's just not enough.
Just a blast.
And sometimes like and this probably happens to people watching this too. Like I'll be like, okay, what time is it? Like 12:47, something like that. Let's say in the afternoon. My next call is at 2 p.m. Let me just start playing with this stuff.
Yeah.
And next thing I know is like, call now. Your call is now.
It's right
like,
now.
No, it's at 2. It's 2.
It's 2 right now.
Yeah,
I've gone over on
crazy.
meetings because like I have another meeting coming up, and it's like all of a sudden it's like, oh, we're 7 minutes past the meeting we're supposed to have been at because we were in something.
It's crazy. So
yeah, we got
it's a lot easier to put the work in when you love it.
Yeah, it is, and it's yeah. So we get David Bacon, who's actually my brother, and so he's watching us.
What's up, Dave?
Yeah. And so for him, he says it's gaming and programming, and so sitting there either jamming out and playing video games and stuff, and that's another hobby of mine that I do on the side. Is
will be the same question. I'm sure David gets the questions like, how are you so good at programming games? Because I do it all the time.
Yeah.
I happen to love doing it, which really, really helps.
Yeah.
But
it's
just you just don't. You're not just born and be like, I'm an expert at video game creation. It doesn't work like that.
Well,
You
I think
have to
that's
put
two
the work
separate
in.
things. So one's playing video games, and the other one's writing code or programming. And so it's not programming video games. So just clarity around that. But
Okay,
I understand.
good point. But I mean, I think that there is talent. You're born with some talent. I think that it's lucky when you happen to be in a career that you love and that you happen to have some talent and vocation for it. I happen to love working. I knew in college, like even, when I was in high school or whatever, like I didn't know what I was going to go to college for, but I knew it was engineering. Like I didn't know what kind of engineering.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, I thought it was going to be mechanical engineering because I like to tinker with gear, with stuff, with mechanical stuff. So for the longest time, I thought it was going to be mechanical engineering. Then I found out how hard it was, and I'm like, I don't know if
what
I
other
want
options
to.
do I have?
Yeah, I mean, like I like mechanics, but I'm not like that much mechanics. Like, so the decision was to go into computer engineering because I equally like computers, and I thought it would be easier to learn how to program and stuff like that.
Okay.
It ended up being hard too. I don't think it's hard as mechanical. I have the utmost, unless you got like from the University of Phoenix or something.
Wow.
Which
Okay.
Unless your degree comes from, but if you're like a legit, like if you're a mechanical engineer from like Georgia Tech, to total respect, like you,
Some great schools.
and you like I knew I wanted to be an engineer because I love to problem solve. I love the fact with Dynamics too that every project is different, that I'm not doing the same thing over and over and over. I enjoy the fact that I work in a horizontal model where I can be working with a company that sells plastic straws, and then the next day I'm working with a company that does
services or something.
whatever.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter, or a non-profit, or like I work with any organization, and I love that. Let me hear what problems you're having. Where do you want to get to? And I'll figure out what's the solution to get there.
Yeah.
I love that.
And it's interesting you talk about that because I know there's other people that I've worked with in the consulting thing is not their gig. And so they're good. They enjoy a lot of what we've talked about. But the fact is that they enjoy seeing a product through.
Right.
And so I want to build the product and I want to see it in 3 years from now. Right.
Yeah.
And so I want to have built it towards that. And so, yes, we've done phase 1 or phase 2 or kind of thing. And so we've done a couple of projects. But a lot of times that's where it ends for partners and consultants and stuff like that. So now you're supporting the process because now they have internal people.
Yeah.
And so I know a few people that enjoy that internal piece because now they have that ownership and they see that and they make that daily impact.
Yeah.
That the ownership that they feel.
Yeah, but they're doing something they love, right?
Yeah,
Which
exactly.
is, I want to see what this thing looks like in 3 years, and they love that. And as long as they do something they really like, they can spend hours and hours getting better at it because they love it anyway.
Yeah.
It's like me. Like I love scuba diving. Like if I could just do scuba diving for a living, it would be the best, right? I just can't do it.
Yeah, it's tough
for a living. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
But you can do this with many passions. I don't really like to give a lot of advice because I feel that people feel that because it worked for me, will work for them.
Yeah.
I mean, I think to an extent, if it works for me, meaning if I made it, meaning I found a
Yeah.
career that I love and I'm good at it, I think anyone can do that too. I just don't think it has to be Dynamics
No.
and be a solution
No, not at all.
architect and be an MVP
No.
for everyone,
No.
right? It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, I went to a class with Tony Robbins, who's a famous motivational speaker,
Yeah.
whatever. And I signed up like very infancy of the company, Elevate Solutions. I went to Business Mastery, which is a $10,000 class that Tony Robbins does, and it's like a 5-day boot camp, which is always interesting because when I hear people, it's like, oh, like what the class 9 to 5 is too long. Like, can we do it like 9 to 4 or 4:30? Like, I think it's too much. That class, Business Mastery, was 9 a.m. to 1 a.m. for 5 days.
Wow.
Right? It's sick. It's ridiculous. But without getting too much into it, I'll just say that a lot of the stuff that Tony Robbins teaches on that class doesn't apply to even Tony Robbins. Right? Like, he'll say something like, your mission with your company should be to become an owner instead of being an operator. Like, you shouldn't have to be at your business for it to succeed, which I get it. Like,
right.
I think if you have a business, you should create processes and hire people that even if you get run over by a truck, your business should still survive. It should survive you. And I think that when we create products, like it happened to me with the CRM Black Belt stuff, you should create something that even if you're not running it and directly responsible for it, if the product is great, it should survive without you. So I'm really proud of the fact that thing is still around, even though I created it back in like 2012 or whenever that was. So I love that. But at the same time, there are certain things that don't work like that. Like, advice like that doesn't work. So like Tony Robbins is a good example. You should have a business that survives without you. Okay, how is Tony Robbins Inc. going to survive without Tony Robbins?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like his advice is great for some companies, but a company like him, it doesn't apply to it. So the same applies to me. Like, spend hours on this, do this.
Yeah.
For some people, it's just not going to work, right?
Yeah, there's so many different things within that, because you touched on people passionate, people what they enjoy doing, where a business owner, and in some of the things you're talking about there is how do I make something sustainable, whether it's a product that as a partner I'm going in and implementing, or as an individual within the organization that I'm implementing a product, and even going beyond a product and an application is how do I involve myself and get myself into pour myself into something and make sure it's of quality in such a way that it's going to continue on beyond myself. That's right. So yeah, that's tough. I mean, that's deep. That was good. I like it, man. After hours, it's good.
Yeah.
So
after hours, it's good.
Well, good. So we're about 45 minutes in.
On the
that's the only one we've got in. We'll go check linked Twitter real quick. So if you guys are out on Twitter, apparently YouTube channels retweeted my tweet. That's kind of cool. I don't know who the YouTube channel is, but it's fun.
Yeah.
Cool. I think that's everybody that's pinged me. David, if you're still on, if you want to drop in a question, I don't know if you had a question that was out there still that we haven't answered yet. But no, Gus, I appreciate it, man. We'll see if this comes through, if anybody drops in a last-minute question. But no, this was good. I appreciate you letting me coming out and enjoying the dungeon that is the CRM media. Glad to have the opportunity to engage and to interview you, I guess, a little bit here and hear more about a little bit of your story.
This was supposed to be a conversation, but I feel like I did.
It's
a lot of the time.
It's how you do roll, man. It's how you always go, man.
It's always like when I
You're
do a
passionate.
podcast,
You talk a lot.
We're gonna keep it to 45 minutes, and they're like, "Well, are we gonna be able to talk? Because if you're gonna be
do by
on
yourself
it,
for 45
and
minutes."
I'm always like, "That's not me. Like I don't talk that much.
You talk a little much, yeah. Just calling a spade a spade.
But then I'm listening, and I'm like, "Damn, I talk so much."
Yeah. No, it's fine, man. You feel like you have a lot to say.
Yeah.
Just give me a shit.
I do.
Yeah.
I do have a lot to say.
Apparently somebody listens.
Exactly.
But no, it's good.
Thank you for being here and to show me all this stream stuff.
Yeah,
and,
maybe you'll do it sometime.
Yeah, I gotta jump on that and
can I challenge you to do that?
Questions. Yeah. I gotta get it done, and then and for letting me use the for bringing me on the channel, right? The Bacon
Yeah,
Bytes.
no, I
I'm
think
subscribe
you're
to it, and
first
again,
guest.
I'm telling people, if anyone's watching, go ahead and hit that subscribe button.
There you
Of
go.
course, and alerts. I do get those alerts on Saturday morning when you used to do it. And
Yeah.
it's like breakfast with bacon or
Breakfast
whatever it was,
with,
and I'm like,
yeah, business and morning with bacon and business applications.
exactly. And
so,
for me, it was typically like lunchtime.
It was
so
like noon
I
your
would like
time.
set it up, yeah, because we're 3 hours. So it would be like noon or something or whatever
Yeah.
it was, and then I would just set it up and like eat lunch and watch it, and like sometimes chat or whatever and add some stuff.
yeah.
But it was great. But
Nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
David has come through. He said he missed the first part of the stream. He's going to go back and watch that. And then
All right.
thinks a monthly stream conversation would be a good thing. So maybe we can do that. We'll set up Skype or something like that.
yeah, we'll figure it out.
Compete
We
with.
have enough technology to
Right? You got enough equipment here, man. Holy moly.
to make it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If only we knew an IT guy. So
Cool.
cool. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, best way to do that, hopefully it's down below.
Yes. Obviously the CRM MVP podcast, .com
Yeah.
it's a website with all of our episodes are there, and CRM MVP Media, which you talked about a couple times,
Yeah.
is the YouTube channel where we upload 2-Minute Tuesday videos, and I started a series recently where I pretty much drink a beer and talk about stuff.
Yeah. I
Without
want to be on that
edits, without
episode.
yeah, beer and business applications.
Let's do that.
We gotta do one of those. But it's kind of, it's been hit or miss. Like I've posted, like I told you, I recorded one. There was a 40-minute rant
Yeah.
of me. Like that's the danger with it. It's that sometimes I'm
You don't
ticked
need
off,
the
and I'm like,
accelerate there. It's an
hit
accelerate.
record.
Yeah.
Let's hit record. It's like I can't believe it. So and of course, because I talk a lot, I'm like, okay, I gotta make it 10 minutes, and that's
gotta plan
it.
for 10,
and then I hit end, and it was 43 or whatever it was,
Yeah.
and I'm like, okay, I can't.
I feel like your
I
timing
can't
is off,
post
man.
this.
You, like,
Nobody's
you
gonna
need,
watch
like,
this.
You need like a little flip chart or something like that where you can
Yeah.
like watch the ticker go.
I just I stare in the middle of the lens, like I'm talking and
Yeah, right into the lens. Just right.
right into it, like I'm.
Yeah, that's like office style.
And then, so it's like I have, like you see, I have a timer on my
Yeah,
desk.
no,
It's supposed to tell me, like, dude, stop.
Stop, shut up.
And it's not gonna do anything if I'm not looking at it. If I'm just looking at the camera. So, yeah. So I have a few episodes that I've recorded that I'm like,
Okay.
okay, I gotta just hit delete. That's
Yeah,
that's
not
probably I like my career. I like being an MVP. Let me just hit delete on
I'll
that.
see if I can find those clippings on the floor
They are
somewhere around
not-
here. So
I'll release him. I'll leave it on my will.
Yeah,
Once I die, go
postmortem.
ahead and
Yeah.
share this OneDrive link. It will just be my memoir.
yeah, no, it's
But
good,
yeah,
man.
no, I gotta get on the stream stuff, and
Yeah.
hopefully we get to do this thing. Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah,
talk about whatever. You have some great ideas. I typically
few.
struggle with ideas. To be honest,
That's what
I'm running out of stuff to talk about.
after
Like I don't
50
like
episodes,
covering.
man.
Well, because I don't like covering the new stuff. Like I like to stay
Yeah.
away from that. I think that there's other MVPs that do a great job with that.
Yeah.
You know, Joel Lindstrom does a great job covering the latest and greatest.
for sure.
The CRM Audio Network, they do a great job
They
with
have a
that.
whole thing, yeah.
I kind of hands down, like you guys got this. Like these
Yeah.
guys do a great job, tip of the day, etc. And so for me, I feel that where I fit is on having conversations like the one we had today. Who owns this stuff, and let's
Yeah.
talk about projects, and let's talk about that. I think that we need more of that conversation out there. Like I mentioned, I don't think a whole lot of people out there are talking about that
Yeah.
stuff. I think that people believe that if I talk about the way I do projects or the way I do demos or the way I do whatever, like they're gonna steal my
It's my secret
secrets.
sauce. Yeah,
I mean, if you think somebody's gonna watch a 1-hour video or listen to a 1-hour podcast and they're gonna do what you do, like,
they're gonna be you. No,
I mean,
it's not.
your game is pretty weak. I mean, that's the way I feel about it. Like, I just can't imagine like watching
Yeah.
a 1-hour video of like a magician and then going and taking their job. Like, it doesn't
Yeah.
work like if you're good at what you do, it will be interesting. Like, I can learn some stuff from it.
For
Like,
sure.
okay, I learned one of the 20 tricks that you show so I can wow my 7-year-old. Like, yeah, like you will pick up some things
Right.
and incorporate it into your own game, but you're not going to just out of the sudden take somebody's job
Yeah.
just because you just watch or listen to a 1-hour. Like,
Yeah.
that's why I'm 100% honest, like on everything I do and everything I talk about. And I just tell like all my secrets or whatever, because I don't expect you to like take my customer or take my job or whatever it is. you
Yeah,
know?
it's been interesting hanging out with you today because I've picked your brain multiple times around how do you go to market with things, how do you approach, whether it's internal issues or external things, how do you approach. We've talked about learning here today. all those different approaches, and it's been interesting. And I even jokingly told you, I'm like, I'm gonna go steal all this and go back to Seattle with it. But at the same time, it's been neat because there's some people in the community that it's like it is, man. It's
But that's the idea.
learn
though.
from
the
each other.
idea is that you
How
can
have you
learn
done
something
this?
from me and go back to Seattle and use it.
Yeah.
Because how is it you doing a better job with customers and making customers happy and long-lasting raving fans of Dynamics 365 out there? How is that going to affect me? It doesn't affect me at all. I think that having more success on the community and having people who know what they're doing is good for me as an expert because I am now demonstrating, I am now showing my customers in the world that I'm putting my efforts and my entire focus on a solution that is successful. And me keeping information from other partners and other professionals that want to do this for a living, keeping that away from them increases the risk that they're not going to do it. That they can
They may stumble.
It increases the risk that they're going to fail. Does it mean that they're going to fail if they don't do it the way I do it? No, of course not.
No.
We've talked about this before, that I could be a horrible partner, a horrible solution architect for some companies because of the way I like to do it, the way I like to implement Dynamics.
And fixed fees, man.
Yeah, fixed fees, right? That's another episode.
It was an early episode that you did, I think, in the podcast.
But I like the, I like to do it in a certain way. And as long as I work with companies that like to do it that way, it works. Companies that don't want to do it that way, if it doesn't work. So the more I can share, the more we can all share. Everyone watching this, the more people can share. Even if people like your brother might not be in this industry, the more you can share to help uplift others, the better I think the industry that you happen to be working on and you're passionate about is going to be. Yeah. So that's kind of my goal.
It is. It's an interesting community. I think there's 26,000 people in the CRM user group. Kind of thing, awesome. Which is just incredible, right? I mean, I think Microsoft put up some other numbers back at the business application and stuff like that. But within the communities, if you just look at the number of members within Dynamics communities, which is an organization, that's incredible. I mean, it's incredible to have that many people around the world. And you gave stories, and it'd be great to. Not that you need another excuse to talk about something, but like some of the stories that you shared with just the community when you go somewhere and you're like, hey, I didn't realize you're here as well. Let's go out to dinner. And so just that community that you've built around that. I mean, it's just awesome. The friendships that literally go around the world.
Just looking at like when we started going to summits and stuff like that, like my first summit was in 2012. There was 300 people there. That's crazy. And I think last year it was like 12,000 or something. It was insane. Like how much we've grown over the last few years is pretty awesome. And getting to, again, share what I've learned over the years. Yeah. So hopefully others can have a better experience with their solution. It's a passion. And, I enjoy the fact that people continue to be interested on it. And the people like honesty, and they don't want to hear just marketing. And that I come out and say, that's just never going to work, or that doesn't work like that. And they don't hear just that, no, this is the way it works. And yours should work like this. I'm the one coming out and saying, like, don't try. It's not going to work. I promise you. Because I tried it and it didn't work. Yeah. And I got in trouble. So you shouldn't try it.
Unless you're better. Maybe somebody figured out a way. So I know you're
unless you
change.
Do it this other way, which is the only way that I think it will, or whatever it is. So
and you talk about finding other people that maybe disagree with you and learn from them.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah. If we all thought the same, then how are we going to learn from each other?
Yeah. So who is the person that's challenged you the most on things, on ideas? Whether it's on premise or whether it's, I don't know. I'm trying to think of other hot buttons that you have. I know you have a lot of them.
Challenging might not be the right word. Like I think that
not like
the ones that I struggle with the most. Yeah, I know the ones that I struggle with the most are the people who are not doing this thing for real and going out there and giving advice based on theoretical purposes of the solution, or theoretical, like this is how
talk about the whiteboard consultant.
Whiteboard consultants, or you have people that go out there and play with functionality on a control lab, and then they go out and push it and say, oh, you should totally use Outlook offline. It works great. Like I used it and it works great.
Yeah, I used it for one use case that I just turned it on for 5 minutes and it totally works.
So it's sort of like, well, if you do this for real, you would know that in the real world, it's a total catastrophe. When you do that.
Yeah, one of our best one of our best sessions was from Sarah, who was at our user group, and she talked about the 10 tips I learned implementing the Outlook client or something like that or whatever. It was something that it was she implemented internally with her organization and went through, and everything was a gotcha essentially. And it was, this is the real world things. They say it should be done this way, and these are the 2 ways that it bit me in the butt type of thing.
Absolutely.
So,
I love those.
Yeah.
Or you hear people, for example, that they would say, well, so there's 5 ways that you can do that. Let me show you all 5 ways. And then I would make the argument like, why are you showing 5 ways? Just show 1 way.
Yeah.
Like, tell me 1 way to do it, and that's it. Like, as a user,
it's tough.
this is how you do it. Boom. 1 way to do it.
Yeah.
Why are you going to show me 5? And then they will argue, and it's like, well, that way they can do it in any way they want, and there's no excuse. Like, there's so many different ways to do it. And I'm like, but that's not how it works in the real world. It doesn't work like that.
Because it goes back.
The real world is keep it simple.
Yeah.
What's the 1 way to do it? That's all I need to know.
Because they always come back. That wasn't the way I was trained.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you train 1 way, then it's 1 way and done. Right.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to here's 3 different ways. Well, I don't remember the way I was trained. So
yeah.
Question.
So my biggest challenges are with people like that sort of go out there and share all of these things like. You should do it this way, and I'm like, but you clearly are not doing this for real, though. Like, why are you telling others to do that? And I share on Twitter a picture. I think it was yesterday or the day before yesterday. It's like, if you're gonna tell me how to do my job, you should at least know how to do my job, right?
For trainers,
I mean, come on, it's like common sense, right? If you're gonna tell me how to be a better solution architect, you should probably be a real solution architect, right? So that is who I struggle with the most, or give me the most challenge. It's sort of like. Why are you doing that?
Because it diminishes the value, or not the value, but it dilutes the concentration of knowledge, or the understanding of that knowledge, kind of thing. And you know what I'm saying? It's that concept of, we thought everybody at this level knew this, but it actually isn't. Who knows what you're actually going to get when you come in with this? Yeah,
but I think that. You would see it also out there that there's a lot of MVPs and other experts on the community that are their level of trustworthiness. Like whenever they speak about something, you know that they are legit.
Juka, right? Yeah.
Like Juka is a good example. Every time he posts something, it's like I talk to him about it. It's like the Bible of whatever he wrote. I respect that. But even if you look at the posts that Steve Mardu writes, right? Which are in a lot of cases critical of something.
It is, man.
But you read it, and it's a smart criticism.
Yeah.
Like it's telling you why. It's not just telling you like that is stupid. It's telling you, let me tell you why it's stupid. Right?
It's not just like,
and then it's
that's
hard
dumb.
to argue with it. Yeah. It's hard to argue with it. Like you read it and you're like, he's right.
Yeah.
Like he could write something criticizing me, and I'll be like, BS. Let me. And once you're right, it's
you're like halfway
actually,
down.
I'm an idiot.
I guess that's kind of true.
He's right.
Yeah.
Right. So it's hard to argue with people like that, because when they write it, you can tell that they're actually doing this stuff. Like this comes
gone
from
through that process.
This comes from lessons hard learned in some cases. But then you see some other people.
I still want
sharing,
Steve just to read a children's book or write a children's book or something like that. If you listen to him read his podcast, it was funny because I was listening to it, and I did it on purpose because I was listening to his last one. Microsoft partners need an enema or whatever like that, and so it was funny because my wife was passing through, and I was purposely just having him on, and she thought I was listening to a podcast, and she's like, "Wait a second, what did he just say?
Did he say enema?"
Yeah, exactly, and it was just it was pretty funny. Cause
I love that. Yeah, he has that voice.
He's got that voice,
and it's funny because I don't know if you listen to the interview from the XRM Toolcast podcast. There's an XRM Toolbox podcast. Yeah. They interview one of my former coworkers, Andy Popkin, who wrote the bulk workflow execution tool for the XRM Toolbox.
Yeah.
And he talks about that story, and he talks about how it came to be, which is essentially me nagging him and breaking the cloud. And he needed to fix it, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, he goes deeper than that. But he has a voice like Steve.
Oh, does he?
So I remember posting. Man. I'm like, man, I'm glad Steve didn't do that interview, because it's like everyone listening would have grown a mustache immediately. Like it's just like the deepest voice. Like
that's awesome.
What's the guy? Sam Elliott is his name? The guy from the actor. Like that
Not James
level.
Earl Jones.
No. He was in he's in a bunch of movies, but he was like
I don't know that
he was
one.
in The Big Lebowski, and he was also in Tombstone. He was like the
Oh yeah,
oldest of
yeah,
the
with the
Earp brothers.
yeah.
Yeah, Sam Elliott. He has
Yeah,
like
yeah.
a deep
That's
voice.
true, yeah.
Like, you know, that's like I'm like if we get this
If
two
we
guys,
get-
we will all grow mustaches.
That's
Just
awesome.
on the
I could use some
listening
hair.
to the
Yeah.
listening to the interview. Like you'll be done, and you're like, oh, my,
Look at this.
look at that.
Yeah.
I just grew a mustache.
It just came through. Yeah. Question came in for you.
Cool.
What's the biggest flip flop in dynamics you have done? I guess it wasn't specifically to you, but to us. Was it managed? Was managed only ever now rather than? Was managed only ever now rather open to unmanaged? Don't exactly understand that, but anyways, what's the biggest flip flop in dynamics you've done?
So what do you mean by flip flop though? That would
So
be
what
my-
was? So I don't know. There was this interesting thing, and I guess it was with Jonas that I saw you. You and Jonas have. I don't know. You guys have this weird relationship, and it's been interesting to watch. Like this, it's you guys are both very passionate, and at the same
Sure.
time, I feel like you're both right, but at the extremes you're not. But in the middle, you are, and you're
Here's
close
the
enough.
interesting thing about Jonas, right? Jonas and I agree in a lot of stuff,
You do, yeah,
but the stuff that we disagree on, we both happen to be like coming from a point of view of experience. We've just
Yeah.
had different experiences, right? It will be like we both come in with I think that if you paint your own house is the best because I did it myself and my house looks great.
yeah,
And then he would come from I try myself and I ruin it. I pay somebody and it looks great.
Yeah.
So he's coming from you should pay somebody, and I'm coming from you should do it yourself. So we both have like experiences, but we
Right.
just have different different
Yeah.
opinions about the same topic.
Right.
So the topic of manage and unmanaged solutions.
we're not
came
gonna get
about.
into this, by the way. It's
We're not
deep.
gonna go into that.
Okay.
His own personal experience, which
Yeah.
I have no idea how he got because
Yeah, everybody
This
has
is-
personal experience.
this
You
is
don't
first
know.
in the
That's-
world of someone who had a positive experience with managed solutions. So he's the only person
He's not.
in the history of the world.
He's the only documented use case, which
Exactly.
proves the exception. The exception
Yeah.
proves the rule, right?
Yeah, like I thought he was like Bigfoot. Like people say they exist. Like there's professionals out there that use managed solutions, but I've never met one. And then he came and said, "No, I've used it successfully. I've done a bunch of
Yeah.
implementation." I believe him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I honestly have no idea how you've done that.
Yeah.
I do not know. So I would love to use managed solutions. They sound awesome on paper.
Yeah.
And Microsoft is telling us that best practice you should use managed solutions.
Yeah. They have
But in
for
the
a
real
long time.
world, they just don't work.
Yeah.
There's no value.
We won't get into that.
Let's not get into that.
Not getting
But-
into it. But has there been something where you said, "Hey, this is Outlook, the Outlook app, right? That's the one that was old. The Outlook app, not the
Outlook
app.
client.
The Outlook client.
Yes.
Thank you. Was there? I don't know. I'm trying to think of something where it was like, this is really good, and then you're like, maybe I should walk that back a little.
Recently.
Are you willing to admit anything, or do we
no,
have to go through transcripts?
I'm trying to think. So recently, I think Playbooks was
Yeah,
one
I
functionality
can see
that I
that.
was really excited
Yeah,
about.
for sure.
That I thought I was gonna be all over it.
Yeah,
And
'Cause it
then
looks
when I
cool. It
when
really
I
does.
learned a little bit more about it, I realized it was useless.
yeah,
At least now,
No, like
on
right now,
version
yeah.
1. They've enhanced it, so
Yeah.
they made it a little bit more usable. But I still think we're a ways away from what I thought.
when you saw
would be
it, what
used-
you thought it was going to be
Yeah.
used for. Yeah.
Another big famous one was when business process flows came out. It looks so exciting,
Yeah.
right? But they were useless. It's like you couldn't customize them really. It didn't expand multiple entities. Like
You couldn't loop back
they
on the
had
same
a lot
entity,
of
yeah.
limitations, right?
Yeah.
You couldn't do branching. It was very very strict.
Yeah.
If you think about
But some of that's
Yeah.
like your excitement prior to something coming out. I mean, has there been something where it was like, I don't know. I mean, again, I feel like you've had a foundation for a long time. Was there something as a young consultant you're like, oh, like this is the way to do it, or maybe it was like I thought
Yes.
like managed solutions. I thought it was a thing, and then like I hit the brick wall and I was like, nope, this is like that was. I mean, that kind of thing.
and that
was there
that
something
was
around
like on
that?
the first project I used managed solutions.
Yeah.
Like I hit the brick wall. Like
Yeah.
most people, it's like they're useless.
Yeah, and again, I'm just trying to think of something like we've definitely hit this, but like,
Yeah.
where was it, like a learning experience where like I thought it was this way, I told people this was cool, and then later on it was like it wasn't as cool as I thought. We talked about playbooks and stuff like that, but
yeah. So I mean, I think a few things. Like I remember back in the day, I try to do most of, let's say, data work. I would use the data import wizard.
oh, okay,
Like
yeah,
I would refuse
yeah.
to use other tools. I'm like,
Yeah.
you don't need it. You don't need those tools.
Yeah, why would you do Kingsway Software? All
Yeah,
these other
yeah,
stuff?
like
Yeah,
still forget it.
Yeah, I
I'm
can
gonna
do- I can
why we
import
have
records.
a perfectly working import wizard here, and
I'll just
then
map it and save the
yeah,
import
and
file.
then you start using these tools to do a lot of cool stuff, and you're like, that was pretty dumb.
Yeah.
Like I would have saved so much time if I had used one of these other tools.
Yeah.
And now I'm a big advocate for Kingsway Soft and these data integration tools because I think they're great. But I think the biggest thing is being a whiteboard consultant was the biggest flip flop of my career.
Yeah.
Changing from going into a project and asking, what do you want me to do? Because I can do it all. I know this product inside out. So whatever you ask, I'm going to do.
Yeah. Taking
switching
orders.
from that to, switching
versus,
from that to, we shouldn't do that at all. Like that's not going to work.
Yeah. And I think that's growth and development. I don't know how much of that is flip flop. I think that's growth. I mean, you got to start knowing.
Well,
that's
it
what
was
I see a lot of
complete
times.
shift on the way I was doing solution architecture
approach.
versus the new way of doing solution architecture. And I talked about this. I recorded an episode with Patrick Lewis, who was my mentor, my solution architect mentor. I think it was like, I don't remember, like 37 or something. It was like how to deal with confrontation, because Patrick really is, at least for me, because I haven't met anyone better than Patrick. He's like the best in the world of leading with confrontations on projects. Like whenever you hit, like the customer is mad, like they're not getting what they want or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like,
Stuff
man,
hit the
just like,
fan.
let's just call Patrick. He's like the negotiator, like the FBI negotiators, like whatever. Like let's just bring it. Like he'll diffuse the situation. He's really good at it, and that's why I wanted to record this episode. Patrick is not very technical. Like he's an amazing solution architect, but he probably is not is not as deep into the platform. Like he knows what CDS is and what Power Platform is, but I don't think he's out there like a lot of us creating Canvas apps to see what they can do.
Yeah, how to break them.
Like like the videos that you record where you're like, I'm gonna create a Canvas app and see what I can do, and then add buttons. Says, oh, can I drag this? Can I do that?
Yeah.
I don't think he's doing that out there. But he's spending a lot more time dealing with the how do I come up with business outcomes, and like he's really good on that. So when I did a project with him and I saw that he solely focused on the business, and when I saw that he would meet with a sales team and we could have a 2-day on-site meeting where dynamics wouldn't even come up. Like we were just talking about sales and forecasting and this and that, and I'm like, I want to do that. Like I don't know how to do that. I was just depending on the customer to tell me what they wanted, and what I should really be doing is digging in to find out what they need in their own terms, rather than talking about the technology.
Yeah, and I think that happens a lot. I mean, you get focused on, and I was in a meeting recently where we were talking through things and how are we going to present this to the end users, and it was that concept. Well, we're going to highlight that there's an Exchange integration, there's an Office integration, and this kind of stuff. And it was really like, so what does that mean to the end users, right? And so like you get focused on what are the features and like what is the cool things that like you think. And so this lookup field can do these 3 different things, and the end user's like, does it make me better? Does it answer my questions?
I used to do stuff that like it makes me sick today. Like like I used to literally like send screenshots of dynamics and say, this is what the form looks like. I want you to literally put a line through the fields you don't want, and right at the bottom the fields you do want and what type of data you want, and then I'll add them. Like no questions about why is this data used for, how is it connected to, like where's it coming from and where's it going to? It was sort of like, what do you want to put in the form? I'll add it because I know how to add fields, so I can add those fields. There was no questioning. So the term solution architect back then, I used very loosely. Like even though I had been promoted to solution architect, looking back, I think that if I was judging myself, I would say I was just a monkey that knew how to use dynamics. Yeah. Right. I think that I became a solution architect later on.
Yeah. That's that journey. But again, we're talking about solution architect. We're going to save that. Yes. We want to talk about that, obviously.
Yes.
So we'll get to that another time. So
I feel like we tried to say goodbye like 30 minutes ago.
We did. And then we had a question or two come in, and somebody was like, keep going. I enjoy listening. So keep talking, just enjoying listening. So it's tough to say goodbye sometimes. But
Yeah.
anyways, we've got about just an hour and 15 or so, and so we'll go ahead and sign off again. Gus, I appreciate you coming on and allowing me to. I don't know if this is guest hosting since I'm sitting in your chair.
Well, you're hosting. That's the host chair.
Is
And you
that
got
what
the
that
good
is?
mic.
Yeah. So if it sounds like a crap mic, you know why. But no, I very much appreciate it. If you haven't already, follow Gus and his channels. He's got a YouTube channel. He's got a couple of different podcasts. You have one podcast, and then a couple of Twitter accounts, whether it's Gus Gonzalez 2 or CRM MVP Media, or is it
CRM MVP podcast is the Twitter as well. Yeah. But yeah, Gus Gonzalez too, and if you have any questions or comments, info@crmmvppodcast.com will be a good email to reach out as well.
Cool. Well, I appreciate the time, and we will sign off tonight. We'll maybe do this again sometime in the future. Thanks, guys.
Bye, everyone.